groups usually to do paid readings, but it's been a little while since I've been in this group, and I've thought about you guys, and every once in a while I'll throw in a post just to be like, I do exist, I do care about this group, but I don't know, I guess, well, here I am. So I thought I would do a quick video today, because today is my dad's birthday, and I'm going to be heading over to his place. Also, to everyone out there, happy Libra new moon. Yes, Libra new moon. But today I want to talk to you about self-love and why self-love is so incredibly important. Now, if you're anything like me, if you are a very practical oriented earth sign or maybe a very futuristic scientific like air sign, self-love can sound like this very woo-woo concept, or it sounds like this thing that's very wishy-washy or intangible, or it feels like this thing that, yeah, it might be important, but we're just gonna push it to the bottom of our to-do list because, hey, I got real, real world stuff that I have to take care of first. And those are definitely thoughts that I have about self-love. Like, I love the whole idea of it, but it always feels like something that I can push off to the side or something that doesn't really have that real impact. You know, it's like this thing that I know is important, but I can't really associate the why. I can't always see directly the connection. And in this video, I want to talk about why it actually is super important, why it is the key. And what is it the key to? It is the key to not only surviving in this world, but also thriving. It is the key to reaching your dreams, achieving success. It is the key to living a very happy, peaceful, confident life. And it is the key to manifesting, absolutely. And that ties very much with self-worth as well. So here's the thing about self-love. No matter where you go throughout life, there's always going to be people out there who doubt you or who want to criticize you or see that you are very happy and want to bring you down to their level because they're not happy, because misery loves company. And if you don't love yourself enough, if you haven't practiced that enough, you will get sucked right into that. If you don't love yourself enough and work on your energy, your vibration, and making that a really core part of who you are, self-love, then when somebody says something negative to you or expresses doubt, whether it's verbally or with body language or maybe not even showing up at all, that will significantly impact your psyche. And then as somebody who is not focusing on their own energy, we allow external forces to then influence how we see ourselves. So not only do other people not see us in a positive light or in the way that we want them to see us, but we start to take on those same mentalities. And that's when we get stuck in the survival mode. And that's when our manifestations no longer seem to come as quickly because we've lost belief in ourselves, because we haven't been working on our self-love journey. So just checking my notes here really quick. And this is why, it will be very, very hard to get very far, because if every time you're going out and someone expresses doubt and your energy hasn't been built up in a strong enough way to be able to shield yourself from that or just not really take that in, every step of the way is going to be a hurdle, another hurdle, another hurdle. And so it's really important to build that confidence, to build that strength. And then what happens is two things happen. Is your mentality around these kinds of comments, mentalities around what other people think of you, and mentalities about yourself all start to shift. Because number one, the things that they say to you, you're able to take with a sense of humor. You know, you don't take it seriously anymore. You're just like, oh, interesting that you think about it that way. And it just doesn't impact us in the same way. Or we're able to separate ourselves from who we know we are and what the person is saying and see it as maybe a reflection of ourselves and what our thought process is, as opposed to that defining us. And then on top of that, the other side of this is that we have a lot of compassion for other people. When we're feeling really good, when we have a lot of love for ourselves, we find it really easy to be forgiving of others, right? Because we're just like, oh, I remember when I was there and I was able to work myself out, and I guess they're still there, and they must be going through something if this is how they are thinking of me. And we start to separate what they say as being about us and start seeing it as being about them, but not in a condescending way of like, well, that's your problem. It's more of a compassionate way of, oh, I really hope that they figure out a way out of that because I think that they're amazing. And forgiveness is another really key piece of self-love, especially if you are a very analytical, like you overanalyze, you overthink, you over question, you tend to have a lot of doubt, you second guess, you really think things through. Self-love will help you with that, because if you overthink the things that you say, if you overthink the way that you think you came across to another person, if you overthink how someone received you, that is a version of you not giving yourself self-love. And what the root of that is that you feel like you maybe made a mistake and you're having a hard time forgiving yourself for that. And when you practice self-love, well, part of self-love is forgiving yourself. So whether or not you said something wrong or right or in the wrong tone or whatever, that part doesn't really matter, because in your head, you're overanalyzing. But the moment that you decide, you know what, I'm going to give myself love regardless, that's when you give yourself the permission to forgive yourself, whether or not you actually said something the wrong way or not. And that alone brings so much peace in the self. And when you have peace in the self, your vibration aligns and it rises and your manifestations start to come. So self-love sounds like this woo-woo kind of concept that we should put at the bottom of the to-do list, or that we can't really associate tangible connections to. But it actually has very, very profound effects on whether we live in survival mode or thriving mode. And one thing about the woo-woo feely stuff, right? That is something that is often put to the side in our society, right? A lot of things that are connected to the feminine are put to the side, right? They're often devalued. If something is really popular amongst women, men often don't want to participate in that, or if they do like it, they don't want to share that they do, because they're like, oh, well, that's really girly, and that would be demasculating or embarrassing, right? The feminine is always considered less valuable, just not as good, embarrassing, etc. And that's why I think in our society it can be so hard for us to connect to self-love as something that is important, even though it deals with the feelings and the emotions. And I think it's because self-love is very connected to more feminine principles. Now, at least that's how we associate it in our current world. It's not just about feminine or masculine. Everybody needs self-love, and it's all energies. All energies and all things contain both masculine and feminine, so nothing is ever really one or the other, but we label it as such. And so we have a hard time appreciating that. And the masculine is also about what can be seen. The masculine is often represented by the sun, or the sun is often associated with the masculine. It's when you turn on the lights, what can you see? What's obvious? Whereas the feminine is often associated with the moon, which is more in the darkness, more in the shadows, the things that exist but are in the subconscious, the things that are there, but we can't connect the dots super easily. And so self-love is one of those concepts as well, where it's there, it's really important. It can just like reset your subconscious to work for you instead of against you, but it's hard to see the dots, at least like immediately. It doesn't look like A turns to B. It's like A turns to B to C to D, and then we get to E, which is where you want it to be. But it can happen just as quickly as, or very quickly, as what we see here in the physical. Actually, sometimes even more quickly, to be honest. So that is what I want to share with you guys today. Is self-love is often seen as this very woo-woo, intangible concept, but an example I can give you, this is definitely a very higher dimensional concept, something that allows you to take shortcuts in life. And I don't mean that in the bad way. I mean it in the being effective, getting where we need to be without wasting unnecessary time. And here's kind of an analogy that I think of. I got puppies and I got a kitty, and they will go outside and they will eat the grass. And then a few hours later, they will throw up. Now, us as humans, we go to a restaurant, if we eat something and then later on we feel not so good and we throw up, we now associate that food, I don't want to eat that food again, right? And then for years, we won't want to eat that food because we have linked the two as, I think this is what gave me that upset stomach. I think this is what gave me that food poisoning or whatever it is. And so we make the link very quickly. But dogs and cats, they don't make that link, right? They can't connect those dots from the way that they currently think. And so they go back out the next day and they're eating grass and they're eating, foods that don't really serve them. And then they come back and then they throw up and it's just like a whole other day. I don't know what caused that. And they repeat and they repeat and they repeat. And that's how I kind of see us, is we go about things in the very tangible way, the not really focusing as much on ourselves and our feelings and self-love, and just going about things action first, feeling second, when really it should be in the reverse. And we have a hard time connecting the dots when it comes to self-love, but that doesn't mean that it isn't linked to your success, right? We just can't see that because it's a higher dimensional thinking kind of concept, but we can experience it. We can experience the negatives of it, and we can experience the positives of it. A dog can experience the negatives of eating grass, whether or not they make that link, or they can experience the positive results of not eating grass, whether or not they make that link. And that is the same with us. So I hope that this was helpful, and I hope to do more live streams soon in this group. And I will catch you guys in the next one.